Scene script. Have you ever wondered how the 20th century would have shaped up without the world wars? Today, we delve into this question. Imagine a world humming with the energy of new inventions and progress. The early 20th century was a time of innovation, industrialization, and imperialistic ambitions. Nations were expanding, economies were booming, and the world seemed to be shrinking. But beneath the surface, tensions were simmering. In the heart of Europe, a complex web of alliances, rivalries, and nationalistic fervor had been woven. The balance of power that had maintained peace was beginning to teeter. Nations were gearing up, building their arsenals, and flexing their military muscles. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary by a Serbian nationalist in June of 1914 was the spark that set this intricate web ablaze. This wasn't an isolated incident, but the culmination of years of escalating tension. The major European powers, Britain, France, Germany, Russia, and Austria-Hungary, had been locked in a dangerous dance of diplomacy and deterrence. The intricate alliance system that was supposed to prevent war had instead made it inevitable. Each power was tied to another by a thread of promises and threats, and when one thread was pulled, the entire fabric unraveled. The causes of World War I were many and complex. Nationalism, imperialism, militarism, and a tangle of alliances all played a part. But perhaps the most significant cause was the pervasive belief that war was inevitable and even desirable. This belief, fueled by a toxic mix of fear, pride, and a thirst for power, set the stage for a conflict of unprecedented scale and devastation. Even as the world marveled at the dawn of a new century, dark clouds were gathering on the horizon. The optimism of the early 20th century was about to be shattered, and the world as it was known was on the brink of a cataclysmic change. This was the world on the brink, a powder keg waiting to explode, and explode it did, into the Great War. And so, the world was plunged into the Great War, a conflict of such scale and devastation that it was then called the War to End All Wars. From the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in June 1914 to the signing of the Treaty of Versailles in June 1919, World War I was a cataclysmic event that reshaped the world. The major players, the Central Powers, composed of Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria, stood against the Allies, chiefly the United Kingdom, France, and Russia. Later, others including the United States, Italy, and Japan would join the fray. The war was marked by trench warfare, where soldiers lived and fought in narrow, muddy trenches for weeks on end. It was a gruesome spectacle of the industrial age, with steel and steam powering massive artillery, tanks, and the first military aircraft. The introduction of chemical warfare in the form of deadly gases added a terrifying new dimension to the battlefield. The war took a heavy toll, both on the battlefield and at home. An estimated 9 million soldiers lost their lives, and civilian casualties were equally high due to war-related diseases and famine. Economies were shattered, empires crumbled, and maps were redrawn. The Russian Revolution of 1917 was a direct result of the war, leading to the formation of the Soviet Union. After 4 long years of fighting, the Allies emerged victorious. But the peace they won was a bitter one. The Treaty of Versailles placed the blame for the war squarely on Germany, demanding hefty reparations that crippled the German economy and sowed seeds of resentment among its people. The human and economic costs of World War I were staggering, and its political consequences were profound. It was a war that changed the world in ways that its contemporaries could hardly have imagined. It was a war that was supposed to end all wars. The war to end all wars, however, was anything but. Its aftermath set the stage for an even greater conflict. In the aftermath of World War I, a fragile peace was established, but the seeds of future conflict were already sown. The Treaty of Versailles was signed as a pledge for peace, but it left many nations dissatisfied. Germany, burdened with heavy reparations and territorial losses, was a nation humiliated and economically crippled. Meanwhile, the world was struggling to recover. The Roaring Twenties brought about a period of economic growth and cultural development, but it was a fleeting respite. The Great Depression hit in the 30s, shaking the global economy to its core and causing widespread unemployment and poverty. In these uncertain times, the world saw the rise of fascism. In Italy, Benito Mussolini took power, while in Germany, a man named Adolf Hitler rose to prominence, promising to restore German pride and power. The world watched, unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon. This fragile peace was not to last. The stage was set for a second, even more devastating global conflict. As the world struggled to recover, the storm clouds of World War II were gathering. The seeds of World War II were sown in the Treaty of Versailles' harsh terms ending World War I. These punitive measures left Germany economically crippled, fostering resentment that would fuel the rise of Adolf Hitler and his National Socialist Party. The Nazi Party's rise to power in 1933 marked the beginning of a dark era, with Hitler's aggressive foreign policies and expansionist ideology setting the stage for a global conflict. The war officially began on September 1, 1939, when Germany invaded Poland, defying the international community and breaking the fragile peace that had held since the end of World War I. Britain and France, committed to Poland's defense, declared war on Germany, marking the start of the 6-year conflict that would span the globe. World War II saw the emergence of the Big Three, the United States, the Soviet Union, and the United Kingdom, as major global players. These nations, along with their allies, formed the backbone of the Allied forces, standing against the Axis powers spearheaded by Germany, Italy, and Japan. The war was characterized by some of the largest and deadliest battles in human history, from the icy siege of Stalingrad to the bloody beaches of Normandy. The Holocaust, Hitler's horrific genocide of 6 million Jews, stands as one of the darkest chapters in human history, a chilling reminder of the depths of human cruelty. The war ended with the unconditional surrender of Germany in May 1945, followed by Japan in September, after the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These nuclear weapons, whose use remains controversial, marked a new era in warfare and international relations. World War II was a transformative event, reshaping the political, cultural, and economic landscape of the world. It heralded the rise of the United States and the Soviet Union as superpowers, setting the stage for the Cold War that would dominate the latter half of the 20th century. World War II changed the world in ways that are still felt today. In the wake of the most devastating conflict in human history, the world was forever changed. As the dust settled on the battlefields of World War II, nations were left to count the cost and begin the long process of rebuilding. But while the physical damage was extensive, the true impact was far more profound, reshaping the geopolitical landscape in ways that continue to resonate today. One of the most significant outcomes was the creation of the United Nations in 1945. This international body was born from the ashes of the failed League of Nations, with a renewed commitment to maintaining global peace and promoting human rights. The UN's creation marked a shift towards a more interconnected world, one where international cooperation and dialogue were seen as essential in preventing another global conflict. However, the end of World War II also marked the beginning of a new type of conflict, the Cold War. As the United States and the Soviet Union emerged as superpowers, ideological differences led to a tense standoff that would last for nearly half a century. This period was characterized by political maneuvering, proxy wars, and a nuclear arms race that brought the world perilously close to the brink of destruction on several occasions. Meanwhile, the post-war period also saw a wave of decolonization sweep across Africa and Asia. As the European powers were weakened by the war, many of their colonial possessions began to push for independence. This led to a radical shift in the global balance of power and marked the birth of many new nations. In the end, the world wars were not just about the battles fought or the lives lost. They were catalysts for change, accelerating social and political transformations and setting the stage for the world as we know it today. The world wars, for all their destruction, shaped the 20th century and continue to influence our world today. So, to return to our initial question, how different would the 20th century have been without the world wars? We've traversed the precipice of global conflict, witnessed the war to end all wars and its devastating aftermath, braved the turbulent waters of a fragile peace, and confronted the horrors of the Second World War. The repercussions of these cataclysmic events have echoed throughout the century, shaping the world as we know it today. The political landscape was redrawn, nations were born and others fell, technology advanced at a breakneck pace, and our understanding of humanity was irrevocably altered. The scars of these wars, both physical and psychological, are still evident in our societies, reminding us of the profound human cost of such conflicts. They have taught us invaluable lessons about the fragility of peace and the importance of diplomacy and cooperation. While we can never know for sure, it is clear that the world wars have left an indelible mark on our history. They serve as a stark reminder of the cost of conflict and the value of peace.